Harriet Tubman escaped slavery. That already makes her exceptional. But what happened after she escaped? That's what changes history. She went back 13 times into the South, where slave catchers hunted her, where the risk of recapture meant death. And she freed 70 people, 0 casualties, 0 recaptured. The question nobody asks is, why? Not why did she escape, that's obvious. But why did she go back? When she was finally free, why would she risk everything to help others? Harriet Tubman was born enslaved on a plantation in Maryland's Eastern Shore. We don't know her exact birth date. Enslaved people weren't considered important enough to record. What we know is this: she was worked until her body broke, beaten until she fought back, hunted until she had no choice but to run. In 1849, at approximately 27 years old, she escaped. The journey took weeks. She traveled at night. She hid during the day. She walked 90 miles on foot, often injured, always terrified toward Philadelphia and freedom. That's what Harriet said about her own escape. She had one of 2 choices: freedom or death. There was no middle ground. When she reached Philadelphia, she was legally free. She could have stayed, built a life, lived safely. But something happened that changed everything. In Philadelphia, Harriet heard her sister was being sold to someone further south, which meant Harriet might never see her again. She made a choice that would define her life. She would go back, not just for her sister, for anyone who wanted freedom. What followed was 13 years of the most dangerous work imaginable. Harriet Tubman became a conductor on the Underground Railroad. That's what they called the people who guided enslaved people to freedom. But Harriet wasn't just a conductor. She was the conductor, the most famous, the most successful, the one slave catchers feared most. Think about that number for a second. 70 people brought from bondage to freedom. Not one of them recaptured. Not one of them lost along the way. In a system designed to crush resistance, Harriet Tubman had a perfect record. How? Strategy, courage, unshakable determination, and something else. She knew the system. She understood slavery. She understood the people hunting her. She understood the landscape, the routes, the safe houses. She turned all of that knowledge into liberation. She called it her train. The people were passengers, and she was the conductor. That's not just metaphor. That's how she understood her mission as a railway to freedom. But freedom didn't come without cost. The cost was written on Harriet's body. She suffered severe beatings as a child and adult. One particularly brutal beating caused her brain injury that resulted in seizures for the rest of her life. Even after escaping, even after becoming the most famous conductor on the Underground Railroad, Harriet was in constant pain. She had seizures without warning. She couldn't always predict when her body would betray her. And yet she kept going. 13 missions, 70 people. That was Harriet's philosophy, not just for herself, for everyone she guided. On the Underground Railroad, she made rules. One of them was, you cannot turn back. If someone got cold, got scared, wanted to go back to the plantation, Harriet would tell them, you can go forward to freedom or you can die here, but you will not go back and lead slave catchers to the rest of us. That sounds harsh, but in slavery, softness was a luxury no one could afford. Hesitation meant death for everyone. Harriet Tubman lived with constant pain, constant fear, constant risk, and she never wavered. That's not heroism in the traditional sense. That's something deeper. That's commitment. That's sacrifice. That's the understanding that freedom is more important than comfort. After the Civil War, Harriet Tubman didn't retire. She didn't disappear into quiet comfort. She started a home for the elderly and indigent, a sanctuary for formerly enslaved people who had no place else to go. She worked until the day she died. She never stopped, never rested, never forgot that freedom meant responsibility. When Harriet Tubman died in 1913, the world had changed. Slavery was abolished. She had lived to see it, but she didn't live to see true freedom. Segregation was the law. Economic bondage replaced chattel slavery. Racism was written into every system. Yet her legacy lived on, and still lives. What makes Harriet Tubman different from other historical figures? It's not that she was the first to escape. Thousands escaped slavery. It's that she understood something fundamental. Freedom doesn't mean anything if it's just for you. Freedom means bringing others with you, risking yourself for the collective, understanding that your liberation is inseparable from everyone else's. That's not just a personal achievement. That's a philosophy, a way of understanding power, resistance, and responsibility. And that's why, 150 years after her death, we're still talking about her. Because she asked a question that never gets answered. What are you willing to sacrifice for freedom? Not your own freedom. Everyone's. Historia camina doesn't sell t-shirts. We sell interrogations of power. When you wear Harriet Tubman, you're not wearing a tribute to a dead hero. You're wearing a question about what freedom means, about what responsibility looks like, about what you would sacrifice. Because that's what real history does. It doesn't let us hide. It doesn't let us feel comfortable. It challenges us to be better. Harriet Tubman lived that challenge every single day of her life. She never settled for comfort, never stopped pushing for something greater. That's the philosophy Historia que camina represents. Visit Historia que camina. Explore the Harriet Tubman design and wear it as a position. Because the clothes you wear declare what you believe, what you stand for, who you're willing to be. Make it count.